about Mexico visa? Mexico says you already instituted measures. Is that true?
We've been undergoing diplomatic outreach. It's one of our most important economic partners, but we are continuing the work necessary to address a number of issues with the regular migration. Mexico is only one part of the story, but any action obviously can entail a reaction. And so obviously with one of our most important trading partners, we have to have those discussions and we have to have that diplomatic outreach. I'm not going to have anything to say additionally publicly. Obviously there's some measure of some sensitivity to it, and there's lots of people that don't have Canadians or Canada at heart that would love to hear any additional speculation. So when I have more to say, obviously I'll say it publicly.
We got a statement from Mexico today that said that there's been an agreement on joint measures and that they've been instituted, and that you've since seen a decline in settlement claims from Mexico over the summer. Is that true?
I have not had the opportunity to review their statement, but glad to work with them always. It's a multi-pronged approach from different departments, but we're continuing our work to make sure that our borders are secure.
Are you already seeing those effects?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Bonjour. Alors, je suis avec mes collègues du caucus libéral, puis aujourd'hui, on voulait vous parler parce que ce qui s'est passé hier, c'est absolument déplorable. D'avoir des politiciens conservateurs canadiens qui invitent l'extrême droite américaine ici au Canada, qui a des propos absolument inacceptables qui ont été tenus hier, notamment en ce qui concerne une volonté d'amener un climat politique qui est beaucoup plus violent, comme on voit parfois aux États-Unis. On a entendu Tucker Carlson mettre des cibles sur des politiciens canadiens. On a entendu Danielle Smith, la première ministre de l'Alberta, dire qu'il devrait faire la même chose avec notre collègue Steven Guilbeault, mettre une cible dans son dos. Ce qu'on veut dire aujourd'hui, c'est qu'au Canada, c'est pas ce type de politique-là qu'on veut. Au Canada, on veut que les hommes et les femmes de toutes les communautés, de toutes les origines, se sentent à l'aise de se présenter en politique, de présenter leurs pensées, puis qu'on ne veut pas de la politique violente ici au Canada. Et au Parti libéral, on va continuer de défendre un Canada qui vit en paix, qui vit en harmonie et dans lequel on peut débattre d'idées de façon paisible et respectueuse des uns et des autres. C'est inacceptable ce qu'on a entendu hier, notamment sur les propos concernant les francophones au pays, notamment au Québec, et on ne se laissera pas faire.
And what was it?
So I'm here with my colleagues, the Liberal caucus members, ministers all, to talk about what happened last night in Edmonton when the Premier of the province of Alberta, Danielle Smith, invites Tucker Carlson right into the heart of my riding. You can tell a lot about a person by the company they keep. And I have knocked those doors in Edmonton Centre. And I know how progressive a riding Edmonton Centre is. I've represented it since 2015. And for Danielle Smith to bring the mouthpiece of the MAGA conservative far right to Edmonton Centre to spew hate about LGBTQ2 people is beyond the pale. It's deplorable, and we won't stand for it. And I can tell you, it is completely unacceptable for the Premier of any province to say that she wants to put a target on the back of any Canadian politician, and my friend and colleague Steven Guilbeault simply for doing his job. You can have respectful discourse in this country. You can raise the issue. You can bang your fist on a table at a FedProv meeting. That's all legit. But you do not summon the dogs of MAGA conservatism to come and somehow try to scare us and to try to incite violence against politicians of any stripe. It's not acceptable. And if she would take her job seriously, she'd actually be focused on housing, on climate change, on actually solving the issues of Albertans, like forgetting her ridiculous proposal on CPP, instead of trying to summon evil forces from the United States to try to take on one of our colleagues.
Il y a une continuité qu'on voit ici des propos de Pierre Poilievre la semaine dernière lorsqu'il est venu insulter les élus québécois. On ne se demande plus si la politique d'extrême droite américaine va venir chez nous. Elle est chez nous. Elle est actuellement chez nous. On entend ici du Québec bashing et moi je demande à Pierre Poilievre de condamner ces propos. Est-ce qu'il va avoir le courage politique de condamner ces propos?
And Minister Guilbeault, I mean, you're the minister that, as your colleague was saying, was targeted. I mean, how do you feel about your name being brought up?
I mean, this goes beyond me and the fact that I was targeted last night at this event. This increases political violence against everyone who runs for office in this country, whether they're doing it at the municipal level, at the provincial level, or at the federal level. As my friend and colleague Randy said, like, we can have differences of opinion. We can bang our fist on the table when we meet. We can have strong disagreement. But to incite violence against people who disagree with you, that's not how things should be done in Canada.
Can you clarify what is the violence? What is the violence that I think the minister also said this in French. What is the violence that they are bringing to Canada? What is the political violence that you're talking about? Just to be very clear.
Well, to put a target on someone's back, for example. To name.
And what is the evil?
To put
what is
someone
the
in
evil
crosshairs.
That you say they're bringing here.
I mean, spewing hate speech about LGBTQ people, trying to bring the kind of division that they have in the United States north of the border. MAGA-style conservatism has no place in Canada, and it's trying to reach through our borders. And as Minister Rodriguez has said, conservative premiers, instead of doing their jobs, are trying to invite this wave of populism. And I can tell you, it's making newcomers nervous and fearful. People in the LGBTQ community do not feel safe. We have people who want to run for office that take a look at what happened last night in Edmonton and say, why bother? And that is not good for the political commons, and it's not good for Canadian democracy.
Minister Rodriguez, you brought up Pierre Poilievre's name in your comments. I mean, is this going to be your strategy effectively going forward, is tying Pierre Poilievre to Trump?
He wants to be Prime Minister of this country. What happened last night is not acceptable. Is he going to condemn that? If he wants to run for Prime Minister, he should have the courage to condemn those. It's not acceptable in our country.
So is that going to be your strategy? People attended, sir. I mean, what do you make of the fact that there is an audience for it and for their perspective?
Well, as I said in French, the extreme right politics, don't ask the question if it's coming to Canada. It's already here. And they bring it in.
Mais moi, j'ai juste une question, parce que depuis 24 heures, vous n'arrêtez pas de nous dire qu'il faut qu'on arrête de parler de politique, puisqu'on vous parlez de McDonald's, il faut qu'on parle vraiment de nous, ce qu'on fait sur le terrain. En quoi est-ce que ce que vous nous annoncez en ce moment, c'est en lien avec ce que vous faites sur le terrain? Vous aussi, vous entrez dans le domaine de la politique.
Ben, on fait la politique pendant qu'on livre pour les Canadiens. C'est normal, c'est notre job de faire de la politique.
Comme ça vous avantage.
Mais lorsqu'il y a des propos comme ceux-là qui sont tenus, lorsqu'il y a du Québec bashing, lorsqu'on attaque les francophones, lorsqu'on attaque la société dans son ensemble, on ne peut pas rester silencieux. Et M. Poilievre ne peut pas rester silencieux. Il doit condamner ses propos.
Parler par rapport à ce qui s'est passé avec M. McDonald, ce que vous faites
Parler à l'Union des municipalités, par exemple, à la Fédération québécoise des municipalités, qui nous rappelle à quel point on a de la difficulté à trouver des gens qui sont prêts à se présenter en politique municipale à cause du climat de violence de plus en plus important. Et ce qu'a fait Danielle Smith hier en invitant Tucker Carlson, qui, il ne faut pas se le cacher, là, un animateur de télé déchu parce qu'il a menti publiquement, à venir au Canada prêcher ce message de haine-là. Il est l'un des responsables de ce qui s'est passé au Capitole le 6 janvier. C'est inacceptable. Et c'est pas comme ça, je pense, que les Québécois, les Québécoises et les Canadiens, les Canadiennes veulent que l'on fasse de la politique. On peut avoir des différences d'opinion, on peut s'astiner sur des trucs, mais d'inciter à la violence politique envers des gens qui ne pensent pas comme nous. Moi, je pense que la plupart des gens au Canada ne sont pas d'accord avec ça.
Are you not contributing to the divide? Should he not have been let into the country? You're all familiar with his rhetoric. He's been doing this for years. So, what, should he have been stopped at the border?
I think his word should be condemned. We cannot accept that in Canada. This is not us, and this will never be. This will never be us.
Are you not contributing to the divide by coming out here and comparing Poilievre to this and making this about him? Are you not contributing to the divide by doing that? If your government has been accused,
we're not comparing Poilievre to him. I think what
You're not? Have you looked at your own advertising from your liberal party?
What Mr. Rodriguez just said is he said, I'm asking Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition, to condemn those hateful and violent statements by Tucker Carlson.
But why not?
J'appuie le Premier ministre 100% pour nous être notre leader pour la prochaine élection. Et je crois qu'on va gagner la prochaine élection avec le Premier ministre.
Est-ce que vous étiez déçu que McDonald fasse cette sortie-là?
J'étais disappointé qu'un membre dirait ça avant le caucus, mais au caucus du Prairie et de l'Ouest, on supporte le Premier ministre 100%. Absolutely. I think we start comparing our vision for Canada, the Liberal vision for Canada, with the conservative vision for Canada, which is simply to cut, and lead Canada into a depression. We've been through tough times globally, nationally, and we have the right policies to get us out of tough times. Thank you.
We are working hard on delivering the results of the spending review, making sure we are ready for Red Tape Awareness Week, which is next week. We have a bill, S6, that we are working very hard on with our colleagues in the Senate, and making sure that we're managing Canadian taxpayer money prudently and effectively.
Just briefly, how as a Halton MP are you dealing with the rise of Mr. Poilievre? I mean, Halton, both Oakvilles, yours and Ms. Damoff's, are swing ridings. How do you fight that
Actually,
rise?
I'm working really hard on the issues of the day that are serving Canadians. And in the riding of Oakville and in Halton, those are issues relating to housing, relating to affordability, relating to auto theft. We announced a auto theft summit coming up on February 8th. And so those are the issues that I'm focused on.
Where we're at.
De mes collègues, parce qu'il y a plusieurs fonctionnaires qui ont des problèmes encore avec Canada Vie. Maintenant, ce qu'on nous explique, c'est que le gouvernement peut imposer des sanctions financières. Pourquoi est-ce que vous ne le faites pas?
Mais nous avons fait beaucoup de travail avec le Canada Vie déjà. Mon équipe et moi parlent avec Canada Vie chaque semaine, par exemple. Et aussi, je travaille fort avec le ministre Duclos sur les prochaines étapes. Donc, nous continuons de surveiller la situation, de livrer les résultats pour les fonctionnaires parce que c'est très important, c'est crucial de s'assurer que les fonctionnaires peuvent accéder leurs prestations.
Merci beaucoup.
No, I don't. And I think the session is going to go great. I think it's a watershed moment. We're going to do better in the polls, and things will get better. The economy will get better, and we'll get better.
Is that wishful thinking, or
No,
how is that going to happen?
because I think more and more Pierre Poilievre is revealing who he is. And okay, Trudeau isn't perfect, but he's way better than Poilievre.
Do you have you have no interest in the leadership group?
No. What's that?
Is that a great talking point?
I don't know. We'll see.
He's amazing, not have to compare him?
Well, I think I said yesterday about comparing it with the relationship. Okay, at the beginning, you know, you look wonderful, they love you, but after a while, things get a little bit stale. But the reality is, if Canadians are going to choose for a new leader, who do you want as a new leader? Trudeau, okay, maybe you're not totally in love with the guy now, but I say he's way, way better than Poilievre, and I think he's actually a really good leader.
Mr. Powlowski, on carbon pricing, are you doing anything differently to try to communicate that to your constituents? Is that something that you're trying to do?
Well, interestingly, and I think carbon pricing is the right thing to do, I think it's one of the most efficient ways of dealing with climate change. But the problem is it's a fairly complex argument. And especially in you in the media kind of know that often the idea is that your average person has like a 30-second attention span, and to be able to explain carbon pricing and why it works takes more than 30 seconds. So it's difficult sell for politicians, but I think also for the media it's a difficult sell, and how do you kind of explain this in a succinct enough way for people to appreciate before they get bored and turn the channel.
Is your caucus having discussions?
What's that?
When you say it's a difficult sell, does that mean?
No, don't walk out. Absolutely, I embrace it. Like, and that's what I said. Like, if the Conservatives want to make this the subject matter of the next election, bring it on, because the Liberal Party sees the importance of climate change and the importance of climate change to our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives. And if they want to fight a battle over in this election about the carbon tax, they'll take the position the carbon tax is unjust, and we'll take the position that climate change actually exists. And the Conservatives don't seem to think that it does. But I think that's something that's a winning message from us.
What are you expecting from the ICJ tomorrow? What is the need that Canada's going to abide by?
Discussions in caucus about how to better communicate that?
I think it's like you have to do it one brick at a time, and you have to convince people one at a time, and you have to get people to actually read and understand the reason for carbon tax, the rebate, and how it works. And I think the challenge in terms of communications is to explain a complex argument and not lose people, like losing you guys as you're trying to explain it. So.
When you go door to door, who is more popular, like you or Justin Trudeau?
Well, I think based on the numbers, it seems like I am, but.
So what does that tell you?
Well, Trudeau is far more public than I am, and a lot of people dislike Trudeau for seemingly fairly trivial reasons. I mean, when he was elected, a lot of people loved his hair. Now, a lot of people hate him because of his hair. I mean, it's not about the substance. It's about superficial things.
Do you think the hatred is superficial?
In some cases, it's more than that. But if you look at who Trudeau was when he was elected and who Trudeau is, having learned about him under the time he's been the party leader, how much of a difference is there? I don't see a lot of difference, but some people have gone from, we don't like them, or we like them, we don't like them, based on what? I think a lot. And I think the big thing is, well, who are you going to compare it with? And certainly if you look at the other opposition leaders, he's way better than any of them are.
Okay, but do you think there could be somebody better in your party right now than him to be the leader?
I don't want to speculate about it. It would depend on...
No, but do you think that there could be? Like, I don't know.
There always could be, sure. I mean, but who knows? But am I looking for a review? No, and the reality is that once you get elected and you're in spotlight, you're in a very different situation. I mean, I as a backbencher am not nearly as much in the spotlight. Ministers are in the spotlight a little less so, but the Prime Minister is always in the spotlight. And you start speculating about who's going to replace him. It's like, who's going to look good when you always have the spotlight on? I don't know.
Have you heard that at the door? People making comments like, you would have a better chance if
for sure.
Prime Minister was not, if you were not running with Trudeau. Have you heard that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah? You hear that a lot?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
Well, I say to them, in my 4 years since being elected, I've come to appreciate how good a Prime Minister he is and how dedicated he is to the people in Canada and the fact that he's a really smart guy. And so I have, in my 4 years of having been elected and heard a lot from Trudeau, my opinions of the Prime Minister have greatly improved, and that's what I tell people.
So what's the comment that they tell you about Mr. Trudeau, on that line?
It's like the marriage thing. Like if you ask them, like, why do you hate Trudeau? It's like, oh, I don't know. It's a whole bunch of things, and so there's various things, and often kind of like superficial. And the fact that I say, well, like they loved him because of his hair, and now they hate him because of it, to a certain extent, it's true. I mean, superficialities, like but I don't discount that because you as a politician get elected as a kind of person, how people perceive you, and and who you are as a person is a whole bunch of different things, and people will often judge you based on like a relationship and fairly superficial things. Not that some people don't have legitimate grievances or disagreements with our party, but on the other hand, I think a lot of the discord with the Prime Minister at the moment are in superficial things and things that really, when you're going to present people the issues, people would and I think will come to the conclusion, well, the Liberals aren't so bad.
But why not just put like a lid on the pot and just say, hey, let's just do like a review or a vote so that we can just clear this issue,
Yeah, are you not concerned
because I think he was elected the leader for good reason. I think he's done a great job as a leader, and he has the right and deserves to make that decision on his own. He represents the party, acts in the best interest of the people of Canada. I firmly believe that, and that's his decision to make as the leader.
Would you like him to stay, or would you like him to go?
I'd like him to stay, absolutely.
But you said there could be a better leader.
Well, you're talking speculatively. I mean, maybe Jesus Christ is sitting on the backbench, and I mean, sure, is Jesus Christ better than Trudeau? Yeah, I think so. But not that I've identified Jesus Christ sitting in the backbench yet. But I mean, if you're asking like a hypothetical,
please tell us.
What's that?
If you do, please tell us.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Judging from the ICJ tomorrow, what does it mean that Canada's going to abide by this ruling?
So tomorrow the ruling will be made, and I'll have more to say.
Is Canada standing clarification from Ken McDonald that came out yesterday?
I was very happy to see Mr. McDonald clarify his remarks.
And so he's still a member of caucus.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
And do you think that's the right move to keep him in caucus when he's making these public calls for a leadership review?
Absolutely. We've always entertained a diversity of views in our caucus. It's important that those views get expressed in the caucus room to the colleagues. That's how it's supposed to work, but absolutely.
Did you have a conversation with him about it?
I did not.
Did anybody have a conversation with him about it that triggered him pulling it back?
I'm unaware, but
Well, my conversations as the whip are private, but like Minister Mackinnon said, we were pleased to see that he decided to put out a clarification.
And going forward, are you going to tell caucus members to say no more about a leadership review?
Caucus is free to discuss whatever they want, and so we're going into our caucus room right now where we have open conversation.
And you're going to tell everyone, if you have something to say, you're going to keep it in the caucus room. You're not going to make these comments public anymore.
Well, we'll discuss it in there.
caucus deliberations are, of course, private, yeah.
I did speak with him, yeah.
And do you think that going forward, this is going to be enough? Has this hurt caucus solidarity going forward, that there's enough public will for a leadership review?
I don't think so. I think you heard from a lot of colleagues yesterday, and they're behind the Prime Minister, so I don't think this hurts us at all.
Did you tell him to retract or
Like I said before, we spoke, but all conversations with the whip are private.
Merci.
Always have a minute for you.
Well, you didn't in Montreal, and
You didn't ask for me.
I did so.
You did?
Talk to Claire.
I didn't say no. I would have said yes.
Just wanted to ask you a little bit about the electricity issue that Alberta had when it was really, really cold, blaming it on renewable energies. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I would say a couple things. I mean, the first is if you do the analysis of what happened in Alberta, it was actually a number of gas plants being offline that actually caused the challenge. I think most people know that in the winter there's typically less wind, and people plan for that in terms of the overall makeup of the electricity system. So I think some of the comments coming out of the Premier's office are just misplaced.
So do you think that this will make it even harder, though, to sell electricity regulations to Alberta?
Well, I guess we'll see, but what I would say is, the Premier herself has actually indicated that she's committed to a net zero grid by 2050. As you know, there's already a lot of flexibility in the clean electricity regulations. I don't think there's actually that much space between what we're saying and what she's saying. So I guess we'll have to actually see whether she means what she says.
What about the electric vehicle charging? Because that was a big challenge. What the challenges that you saw, did that change your thinking about this? What did you conclude on?
Well, I think we're still looking at that. Obviously, we need to ensure that there's enhanced reliability in the charging infrastructure as we move forward, and it needs to be in a manner that actually responds to extreme weather that may happen in this country from time to time. But we remain committed to a decarbonization of the transportation sector. You cannot address climate change without that, but we need to ensure that we're doing it in a thoughtful way.
So are you reviewing that, what happened, though? You are taking an actual
We
look at what happened
absolutely, we're having a look at what happened. We're having a look at what the issues were, and only through doing that can you actually ensure that you can address whatever problems came up. So.
How are you feeling about the Senate, where you stand politically right now?
I'm pretty optimistic. We had a pretty good cabinet retreat in Montreal where I think we talked a lot about where we're heading. I think we're going to have a good series of conversations amongst the caucus, but I'm actually feeling very optimistic, and I think we're moving towards a victory in the next election.
Multiple people in your cabinet have said that you need to communicate better on carbon pricing, especially the rebates this year. Is there any specific conversations about strategy happening with that?
Well, we're always talking about how we can communicate better. Certainly, I think we need to ensure that the message is clear. What Mr. Poilievre says about carbon pricing is actually false, and it's a lie. At the end of the day, 8 out of 10 Canadian families get more money back. It's an effective way to address climate change, but also to do it in a manner that's affordable, particularly for those who live on modest incomes. If that's not fully resonating, then we need to do more in communications. But, the facts are on our side, not on Mr. Poilievre's. Well, I think you'll probably hear some more about that in the coming weeks. So.
J'ai pas vraiment de commentaire. Est-ce que vous avez une question de fond sur...
Mais qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ces critiques qu'il a émises par rapport aux...
Je vais pas commenter sur qu'est-ce que notre député a dit.
OK, mais est-ce que vous pensez que M. Trudeau est encore l'homme de la situation?
Je crois que nous avons une constitution qui est claire, la constitution du Parti libéral.
Est-ce que pour vous, M. Trudeau est encore l'homme?
Encore, il est le chef du parti. C'est la personne qui va être notre leader et c'est cette... Excusez-moi?
Avez-vous confiance en lui?
J'ai confiance complète dans le leader, c'est clair.
J'aimerais vous entendre sur la cause à la Cour internationale de justice. Le Canada qui a pas vraiment pris de décision s'il était d'accord ou pas avec l'Afrique du Sud. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Mais j'ai dit clairement depuis le début que je ne crois pas que l'Israël est en train de faire un génocide et je crois que c'est très insultant cette accusation-là et je crois que comme les États-Unis, comme la Grande-Bretagne, comme la France, comme l'Italie, comme l'Australie, l'Autriche et comme l'Allemagne, on devrait le rejeter.
Mais M. Trudeau n'a pas dit ça, alors qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ça?
Mais qu'est-ce que j'ai dit? On devrait le rejeter.
Vous devriez donc, vous pensez que M. Trudeau devrait dire ouvertement que ce n'est pas un génocide?
Que Israël ne fait pas le génocide, absolument.
Okay.
Oui.
Et le fait qu'il ne le fasse pas en ce moment, est-ce que ça crée des remous?
Encore, qu'est-ce que moi j'ai dit? C'est que moi je crois qu'Israël ne commet pas un génocide et que je crois que ça devrait être la position claire du gouvernement du Canada. Merci.
Absolutely not. And it's clear Ken's clarified his comments, which is great. We can get back to work and need to show that we're working for the Canadian people. And
Do you think it's damaging that it happened at all, though?
it's not helpful, if we're being brutally honest, but I think Ken realized what he did, and good to see his remarks clarified. And
But do you think he clarified them of his own accord, or do you think he got asked to clarify them?
I don't think Ken does anything pressured. Ken is often one to speak his mind freely. He's stubborn in a good way and something that I respect, so good to see.
You don't want a leadership review?
Oh, absolutely not. Thank you.
Made a 180 in one day.
You'll have to ask Ken. Thanks so much.
The speech in there. Come on in and see it.